and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about a very hot topic at the moment, and that is Taylor Swift vinyl variants. If you've missed it, Taylor Swift has announced her brand new album, The Life of a Showgirl, coming out October 3rd. And obviously with that, as with any other album that comes out nowadays, there are vinyl variants, and it has caused a lot of controversy. So I wanted to make a video talking a little bit about it, and to also clear up some misconceptions and rumours that are kind of spreading around Taylor right now. First up, yes, Taylor Swift releases vinyl variants. That is something that she does, as do all artists. And I think the reason why people got so mad about Taylor Swift and vinyl variants, it mainly happened around the Tortured Poets department. So Tortured Poets department came out around two other really popular albums, Brat and Billie Eilish's Hit Me Hard and Soft, maybe? I can't remember the full title of it, but it came around about those two albums. And it had a huge number of sales, Tortured Poets department, huge, and it remained number one. So unfortunately those two really popular albums didn't manage to make it to number one, and because of that, people got very mad at Taylor. And there was a lot of misconception that there have been like 60 vinyl variants for the Tortured Poets department, that she was putting out all these new vinyl variants to stop artists becoming number one, all of that. When that is not true. For the Tortured Poets department, there were 6 vinyl variants. You heard that correctly, 6. Not the 60 people are saying, or the current number that's going around, 19 for some reason. It is really bizarre. I don't know where this 19 number has actually come from, because there are 6 vinyl variants. There's the manuscript Ghosted White, the manuscript Phantom Clear, the Black Dog, the Albatross, and the Bolter, and then the 6th one was the Anthology. The Anthology actually came later as well. So the Anthology came around Black Friday 2024, whereas obviously the rest of the Tortured Poets department came out around April 2024. So yes, there are only 6 vinyl variants. I know that may come as a shock to some of you who have probably read some of the misinformation and were just like, oh, I didn't realise that's all there was, but I can confirm that is all there was. There were other versions of the album though, but there is a very big difference between a vinyl variant and a different version. So yes, she did release a few CDs, especially in the US. However, no one was forced to buy any of these. Same with the digital versions. I'm going to be completely honest with you all. I think the last time I bought a digital Taylor Swift album was Reputation, and I think it's because it wasn't on streaming straight away and I wanted to listen to it at midnight, so I bought it on like iTunes or whatever at the time. But since then, 1, they don't sell their digital albums in the UK, I live in the UK, and 2, I just don't particularly need it. And I know a lot of people get very upset because there are so many different versions of an album and they think, well, I want to get them all, but I can't afford them all, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to get them all. With any album, even if an album has an exclusive song on it, the chances are we will get that song at some point, whether you listen to it through official channels or not. So with the Tortured Poets department, the 4 main variants had different songs on. So the manuscript both had the Phantom Clear and the Ghosted White both had the manuscript bonus track. But for the Black Dog, that had the Black Dog bonus track, the Albatross, the Bolter, the Bolter. So they had additional songs on each of them that weren't on any of the other vinyl or CDs. And a lot of people weren't happy with that. And to be completely honest, I understand. Because if you think you can't listen to a particular Taylor Swift song because you aren't buying the physical media, I don't think that's great, especially as so many of us now pay for streaming services. You know, money is really, really tough for a lot of people. It can be kind of sad thinking, oh, I'm not going to hear these songs unless I get this particular physical piece of music. For a lot of people, they don't have a record player. They don't have a CD player. They don't have a cassette player. So it was... a lot of people weren't happy, and I do understand why people weren't happy about that. However, when the album was released, I think 2 hours later, she then released all of those songs onto streaming. Every single one. So you could listen to all of the songs and then some, because she also had songs that were also just available on streaming for a short time. Eventually they were then pressed onto the vinyl, that was pressed onto the Anthology vinyl, because so many people were like, we just want one piece of work, one physical piece of media where it can have all of the songs. And again, that is something I completely understand, and I think there are issues with vinyl variants. You know, some people are going to watch this video and be like, she's been brainwashed, she's been forced to buy these variants. No. I buy the variants, and I bought all the Tortured Poets department vinyl, all 6 of them, because I want to, because I'm a collector. Now people often asked, like, do you play them all? Like, what is the point in this? And it's just a collection. To be completely honest, no, I don't play every single one I get, especially if I variant collect, because they're the same album. Now with the Torture Poets Department, it was slightly different, obviously, as there was one additional like song on each of those. However, once we got then the full body of work on the anthology, you could then just listen to that, because you don't particularly need to listen to the rest of them, because all of the songs are on this like 4 LP big kind of record, because that was quite a big one. But yes, I don't play them all the time. I know that will come as a shock, but sometimes people do just get things to collect them. And again, there's arguments for and against this, I understand, but everyone collects stuff. Well, I think most people will collect things, whether it's Pokemon cards or Funko Pops or football t-shirts, anything. People collect all sorts of things. Squishmallows, the new ones, Labubu's, there'll be something new in a year or so. Like, people collect all sorts of things, and I really noticed that it's only some stuff that people get mad at. So if people collect football shirts, that's fine. But the second someone collects music from an artist, then it's a problem. But it only seems to be a problem when it's a younger artist. You know, artist that mainly is popular with kind of the younger generation. Because the Beatles released multiple vinyl variants. People in my comments like, the Beatles have never done this. They have. You can check. Like, all artists nowadays, even artists from the past, they will be re-releasing, whether it's because of their own personal choice or because whoever owns their masters re-releases them. But either way, there will be multiple vinyl variants, because that is how they make a lot of their money. With streaming services, you don't make as much money as you used to, just based on people listening to the music, so you have to actually release these physical pieces of media. So that is something I wanted to get out of the way, that it's not just Taylor Swift. Back to the number 6. Taylor released 6 vinyl variants for the Torture Poets Department, and people seem to think that's the most that anyone's ever released ever. Incorrect. Brat, which was released around a similar time, had around 22 vinyl variants. Exact same situation, but Charli XCX didn't get nearly as much hate. Well, she didn't get any hate for the multiple variants, compared to Taylor Swift, who had loads of hate. Now, obviously with Taylor, she sells more. You know, she is a really popular artist. This is not me trying to cause any beef between particular artists. That's not what this video is about whatsoever. It's showing that all artists do this. Charli XCX has opened up for Taylor Swift, you know. She has some really, really great songs, really, really great albums. I really love the Sucker album. I think that's a fantastic song. My favourite Charli XCX song is So Over You. She has some great ones. But it is important to note that she did have vinyl variants. So when people were like, Taylor Swift is an awful person, she stopped Charli XCX going number 1 because of her variants. Charli also had vinyl variants. But yet Taylor just sell more. And I think that's the big difference with these, because people are like, oh, well, it's fine with this artist because they don't sell as much. But because Taylor is just more popular, she is inevitably going to sell more. But if they were to make these vinyl limited, people would not be happy. Say if Taylor was to release 2,000. Someone in my comments said that Brat had 2,000 of a certain vinyl. There was only 2,000 worldwide. If that happened with Taylor, the vinyl resale prices would be astronomical. The vast majority of fans wouldn't be able to get their hands on it. It would cause a lot of anger amongst fans, a lot of sadness amongst fans. Like, even with some of Taylor's releases in the past, like her record store days that had like 5,000 maybe-ish worldwide, they now go for £1,000, £2,000. It makes it unaffordable for fans. So I actually quite like it that a lot of these records she releases aren't particularly limited. Now, I think there is an issue with the way they advertise them, especially with Midnight 1989 and the Torture Poets Department. They were advertised as limited, and they did come back, and they were all eventually then in stores as well. I think that is an issue. However, I think it's good that we get them back, because otherwise they would sell out. People wouldn't be able to get their hands on them. I wouldn't be able to get my hands on all of them. It would just be pretty much impossible. You think about how fast some of the Taylor Swift merch sells out now, even when there's like hundreds of thousands in stock. So I don't like the idea of her making them limited. I understand people are like, oh, that's why people are mad, because she just sells so many of them. But if they're going to sell, they're going to sell them. They're not going to stop selling vinyl variants because they sell so well. They're not going to keep, like, only make 2,000, only press 2,000 vinyl because they can make a lot more money. As a fan, I've never felt ripped off by an artist. You know, I love Sabrina Carpenter, but I didn't buy any of her vinyl variants because vinyl collecting is an expensive hobby. And we'll talk about this in a second as well, but it is a really, really expensive hobby. You know, for her latest album, Life for Showgirl, each of these records is about £30 for me living in the UK, which is a lot. especially when you pay like £10-ish a month for your streaming service. £30 is a lot to listen to the same songs that you can just listen to on your phone. And for a lot of people, it is not affordable. The vinyl variants are expensive. And I had a comment on my TikTok recently being like, it's not fair that she's releasing so many vinyl because children are sad they can't get them all. Again, completely valid point, because children are upset they can get them all. But vinyl, again, it's expensive. I always say this with any of my vinyl collection videos. I'm like, vinyl is expensive. If you do not want to variant collect, please don't feel pressured to variant collect. As someone who makes content about Taylor Swift and about vinyl, I always want to make that really clear, because I know FOMO can just, fear of missing out is very rampant in the Taylor Swift world and in the vinyl community as well. There are people who don't even like Taylor Swift who still buy her records because they're scared of missing out on them. And because of the resale for particular Taylor Swift records being really, really high, that's why some people do this now. And I understand that children might get upset if they can't get them all. When I was a kid, the Bratz Rock Angels dolls, I wanted all of them and I couldn't get all of them because that's just not realistic. And unfortunately, that's just the case with vinyl. I don't particularly think they're great toys for kids because they're not toys. I think if I were a parent and my kid wanted vinyl, maybe they'd get one because, again, 30 quid, it's a lot. But direct them to other forms of physical media. I think a lot of kids and adults as well, adults alike, see people online get all these vinyl variants and they think, I want them all, blah, blah, blah. But like, there are so many CDs out there as well that are so much cheaper. So my advice, if you are someone watching this video, you have a kid who really wants all these vinyl variants, you're getting kind of stressed about it, is to see if you can try steer them in the way of, look at the CDs. The CDs are around £10 to £15, which it does make a big difference. And I think a lot of the time people aren't that bothered about having a vinyl necessarily. I think they're more bothered about having a piece of physical media. And I think because you mainly see vinyl on social media, that's why so many people want vinyl, because it looks cool. But it is so much harder to look after. Like, I know if I was a kid, I definitely would not be able to look after my vinyl correctly. With my CDs, they're lucky that they have mostly made it. If you've watched any of my CD collection videos, I've had these since I was a kid. Some of them do have scratches on the cases, cracks on the cases. That's just, inevitable when you're young and you bring them everywhere with you. So I do just want to offer a bit of advice in that if you can steer them in a different direction, try. Just because it might make it easier and might minimise the arguments about vinyl variants, because I know what it was like. I used to argue with my mum being like, I want this. And my mum was like, Rachel, no. And at the time you can't understand why, but obviously when you get older you do kind of understand a little bit more. And my mum will be watching this video thinking about all the ridiculous things I asked for as a child, which we're not going to talk about because there were some really embarrassing things that I asked for that were just, it was like unicorn level. That's kind of the level that some of the things I asked for, it was that bizarre. But anyway, it is another thing that I completely understand. Like with this vinyl thing, it's, with the variant argument, it's not plain black and white. There are, with all arguments online, there is nuance to it, and I think people forget that online. They think they have to have one solid position, but I can completely see both sides and I completely understand both sides of this, because it's not black and white. It's not really, really simple. There are issues with vinyl variants and artists releasing multiple, but at the end of the day, and this is just my own opinion, I think vinyl variants aren't for everyone. They're not just for casual fans of an artist, because they're expensive. And with the life of a showgirl, all of these vinyl variants that have currently been released as of time of recording, things could always change, feature all of the same 12 songs. All of the same 12 songs. Whether you buy it on vinyl, CD, cassette, or you listen to it on streaming services, you are getting the exact same 12 songs. Now, I think this is far better. As a fan, obviously, it is quite cool when you get an exclusive song on a CD, on a vinyl, or something like that. But I always think there should be an option for that online. There should always be a digital version out there for people who don't want to buy physical media for whatever reason. There are arguments against physical media in terms of the environment. Something, again, I do recognise. However, you can make this argument about everything with things that people collect. But then you also, I just think, let people collect things if they want to collect things. These items are there for people to make a decision. And I think this is another argument about this whole thing, is that I think it makes a lot of sense having all these different covers, different variants, so people can make the choice of which one they want. And whenever I make my vinyl video showing you the different variants, I'm like, here is me showing you these because I want to show you what they look like. Because you can see photos online of them all you want, you can see the digital rendering, they're not always the most accurate. I want to show you what it looks like with an actual person showing you this. I try to show you all the angles, what it actually looks like, so you can make a decision for yourself rather than just seeing the marketing photos, which obviously look amazing and incredible. Sometimes vinyl don't always look like they do on these digital renderings. I've lost my flow there because I had to stop my video because Taylor just did a new thing on TikTok where you comment Taylor Swift and the pink sparkles appear, so I had to stop that. But anyway, that was just Yap Central. That was Yap Central about my opinions there, but I agree with people being like, I don't like that they're released separately. One, because you have to pay more shipping, but also the FOMO that exists, obviously, with that. Now, that is a big reason why they do it, because of the FOMO, because people then end up buying more than they mean to, because they panic thinking they're more limited than they are. Now, I think Taylor's team have learned. I think they have learned from the Torture Poets department and what fans didn't like. Fans didn't like that there were additional songs on different vinyl that you couldn't get if you had one vinyl instead of another. Fans also didn't like that they said these vinyl were limited just to bring them back onto the store. With the new vinyl, they all have the exact same songs. They do have different poems in, but at the end of the day, with anything like physical media like that, like with poems, they're all going to be posted online anyway. So if that is something you are worried about, you will be able to find them online. So don't try not to like stress too much about that. And I think this is why when they did the Shiny Bug version and the Baby That's Show Business version, they released them on her store, it said limited run, first and only pressing. Now, the wording on that is a little bit weird as well, just because in theory it could still come back in stock. Yes, they can't press anymore because they said they're not going to press anymore, but in theory they could have pressed 1 million. So they could have pressed loads and loads so they can restock them for ages without ever having to make any new ones, because they've not given us an exact number of how many there are. I don't think these ones are that limited either. I think on some stores they have been limited. For the EU store, they've sold out pretty much straight away, which I don't agree with. I think it is a huge shame that people on the EU store who use the EU store can't get the vinyl they're after when they're in stock on the UK store and the US store for at least an hour, usually most times. So I do agree with people that it is a bit annoying when they do that. And when I make these videos and I show people all the ins and outs of the vinyl, I do that so you can make a decision on which one to get, which is really easy when all of the vinyl are available at once. So after you've done all the pre-orders and everything, with Torture Poets, with 1989, with Midnights, you can get all those vinyl now. And I make those videos so people can make those decisions. But when you're doing these random little drops, I don't like them as much, I will admit. Yes, it's more fun for me as a fan. I've really been enjoying the countdowns and stuff, and it's also nicer to buy them in small amounts rather than buy them all at once. But for people who don't want to buy multiple variants, it's far, far nicer to give them the option of which one they actually want, rather than them having to make a decision and then the next vinyl that Taylor releases, they might prefer that one over that. Yes, on the UK store, I don't know how this works through the store, but on the UK store you can cancel your order. So say she releases one variant, you buy it, you prefer a different variant, you can cancel that previous order. And for most people who've done this, it works really, really well, and that is something I completely agree with. We should have that option. However, I think it would be better. I don't think it would be the best business move, but it would be better for the fans if we could just see all the vinyl available at once, just so people can make the decision on which one they want the most. But again, that's not great in terms of a business move, so I do kind of understand people are less likely to buy more variants if they're all available in one spot, so I do kind of understand why they've not done that. But yeah, basically, the point of this rant has essentially been just yapping. It's just been yapping about my opinions on vinyl variants, because I do completely understand the arguments with it, and when the Life of Shogo comes out, yes, I have bought the different variants. I will be making videos on the variants, but I'll be saying the same things where I'm showing you this so you can make the decision on what you want. You are not any more or less of a fan because you can afford to buy these vinyls, you're in a position to get them, you want to get them, anything like that. Some people can't afford to get them, some people don't want them. That doesn't make you any more or less of a fan if you are to buy them. Like, it really, really doesn't. Some people just don't want physical media, they prefer listening to it online. online, they prefer having digital albums, listen to it on streaming, whatever, that is completely okay. And I always want to make my videos feel like a safe space for people in that way, where they don't feel like they're less of a fan when they see someone's collection. And I never ever want people to ever feel like that. I never want people to feel like they have to buy things just because they've seen it on my video, because I really, really do try to be completely honest with my vinyl reviews, with my opinions on the records, just because then I think it helps people a little bit more, and sometimes makes people feel a little bit better when I see something I'm like, oh, it's not the best. It makes them feel a little bit of relief that they didn't go for all of them and stuff. So yeah, I hope you liked this video and just my rant. Please let me know your thoughts on this in the comments, because it is a really interesting topic. I think now just every single artist is releasing vinyl variants of different covers and all of that. There are so many discussions to be had about it, and I would love to know your opinion on it, because everyone does really have a different opinion, whether you do collect them, you don't collect them, whether you just want one, whether you want 20, and I think it is really interesting to talk about these things with people. So let me know in the comments your thoughts on this, about vinyl variants and stuff, and I hope you liked this video. If you want to see more Taylor Swift videos, make sure to like and subscribe, that'd be so cool. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.